JT Crowley is Talking Books. On the show, you'll hear from emerging talent and seasoned veterans from around the world.
Hello, everybody. I'm JT Crowley, and I have to say, everyone, that I am super delighted to be talking to Linda Harkey. It's great to have her back on the show because this is her second interview with me. And the first one, actually, everybody, was back in, I believe, in October last year when we talked about her series then of the Hickory Doc's Tale series. And here we are 9 to 10 months later talking about her new series, Travels with the Pack. Now, this new series that Linda has written has got 2 books in the series so far. The first one is called Chatty, the Pheasant Hen, and the second and her latest book, Desert Friends. And it's the Desert Friends book, everybody, that will probably be concentrating on predominantly in the podcast, but we will go and talk about Chatty, the Pheasant Hen, as well, because they are both part of the Travels with the Pack series. And the books they're children's books, everybody, and they're aimed at 4 to 8-year-olds. And when you have a look at them, the beautiful illustrations they've got in there, the colourful illustrations and the simple, plain stories, they're absolutely wonderful, everybody. Now, Linda, she presently lives in New Mexico, but has lived at various places across the US as she's followed her husband Mike's professional path. She lives in Boston. She's lived in the state of Oklahoma. She has 2 children, Owen and Carrie, 5 grandchildren, and of course, a whole host of hunting dogs, because that's where the books come from. They're all about her hunting dogs, the tales and the stories of their adventures, but she's just renamed them in the books. She's been a school teacher. She's been a Sunday school teacher. She's been a volunteer docent, as well as being an author, of course. Linda, I am so excited to welcome you back. And we've been chatting, everybody, over the last few months, back and forth about her books and all sorts of rubbish. But that's what we just do. And now she's got the 2 books out. And we're ready to go, everybody, with these new series of Travels with the Pack books. Linda, come and join me.
I will.
So, Linda, you finally moved on from the Hickory Doc's Tale series, but the stories in the new series are still around the ventures of the hunting dogs. Why did you decide to keep the hunting dogs at the heart of this new series?
Well, because that's what I really know a lot about, but the children and the hunting dogs. And these are memories of different events that have happened. I've exaggerated them. Obviously, they're fiction, but they're very important books about dogs and children and education, basically, and entertainment. And they're good stories. So that's why.
Oh, they're very good stories. And you have hit on it that, yes, they are, for me, they are fun. And yet there is an educational point to them. As you say in the stories, you are talking a bit about the wildlife and the habits of those animals that you've characterized here.
Right.
Absolutely. Linda, can we go to Desert Friends first, before we go to Chatty, everybody? I know it's the second in the series, and common sense would say, well, we should talk about the first book in the series, Chatty, but I'm a bloke, I'm going to do it the other way around.
I like that.
So let's talk about Desert Friends, because this is the bigger book and your most recent book. Plus, I understand that you feel that this book is your best. This is you at your best. So let's talk about it. Now, you've set the scene in the Sonoran Desert in Arizona. Why a desert scene? And how did you come up with the idea of the characters Rodney, a brown and black speckled roadrunner, and Quincy, a grey-brown Campbell's quail? Because they work so well together. So why the desert scene and why those 2 characters?
Well, my husband has actually hunted birds in the desert, along, in Arizona, New Mexico, wherever, and he's done a lot of that. But the reason and it was different, to be quite honest with you. Chatty I did in South Dakota in a winter scene, as you already said earlier, and so this one was the Sonora Desert, and it had all the elements that I wanted. It had a good story, a plot. It had some entertainment with the animals, and it also had some of the education that you just talked about. Rodney, I really like the idea of the birds because Rodney's taller, thinner, and he's the roadrunner and goes really, really, really fast. The quail, Quincy, is shorter, fatter, and is a little more deliberate. And so just as we as humans come in all sizes, shapes, colors, etc., so do animals. And animals have a lot of the same type of characteristics. And I thought that they would work well together, and they do. They actually do work very well along with the two hunting dogs, the German shorthaired pointers. And Tripod is a three-legged hunting dog, but he was one of my husband's best hunting dogs, actually. He could really run, and he was fabulous. And then, of course, Gator, who's the four-legged one. And still, he has his own characteristics, so to speak. So, and that's why I picked them. Just they were very different. Rodney is a roadrunners are more individual. They're not like in a community as much. Quails actually live sort of in a community. When they are sleeping, they get in a round ball and their tails are facing in and their little heads are sticking out. So there was a difference right away between Rodney and between Quincy. And there were some other differences too. So that's what I'm trying to bring out, along with the entertainment and the fun of it.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, there's quite some entertainment in here, everybody. And I did love the illustration where you've got the quails all huddled together, with their rear ends all, pushed, in a circle to keep him warm. And of course, Quincy, she said, likes to, well, Rodney, you'll be no good here because you're too skinny. And that tail will not fit in. And because Rodney is, he's a bird that's, the roadrunners, they stick to themselves, don't they?
Well, yes. And also when they need to warm up, instead of being in a big old bunch, they actually, their back will face the sun and their feathers kind of spread out in the back. And then that's how they warm up. So
because you say that in the book.
Yeah.
Yeah, you say that in the book. I have to say, Linda, the illustrations done by Mike Minnick are wonderful. The colours are exciting and the facial expressions on the characters are cute. Did you and Mike find coming up with these great illustrations a real labour of love? Tell us how the drawings came to life to bring a magical touch to this wonderful book of yours, because that's what the illustrations do.
Oh, well, thank you. And I feel like Mike Mimic and I work very well together. He doesn't live here. He lives in Oklahoma. But when we talked, we would go through my manuscript first. And I actually showed children in the classroom how you go about doing a book. And so we went through the manuscript, and then he developed the characters from my characters. In other words, the drawing, so to speak. And he made them. Oh, I love it. The one, and I wish you could show it, the one in which the shadow is over Quincy and Rodney, and the way their eyes are kind of bugged out. Mike really brings the characters to life because he has a labor of love just like I do. And he's a wonderful, wonderful illustrator with me. So.
Oh, I think, the illustrations are fantastic. I looked at them, and you've got for me, I love the one of where you've got Gator and who is, crashed into the, into the spines. And, there you've got him, in the illustration with the spines all on his right bottom, should I say, looking a bit sad for himself. And then you've got Tripod, who I think it's wonderful how he's drawn, the picture of him coming down, the water gushing down, and he's trying to get out of the this gushing water, and with great difficulty. And then of course you've got some of that, and Gator is there, helping him out, grabbing him by the collar and pulling him out. I love that caption.
I think Mike did a great job. The warriors in the canyons, so to speak, in the desert, or the little creek beds, so to speak, they really can get mammoth water all at one time, and it comes really rushing. And it's exactly like that with the mud coming down. And then Tripod got caught in the water. And as you said, Gator helps him get out. But Rodney and Quincy, are running right along with it, trying to help save Tripod also. So, I think what he did with that was absolutely fabulous. He is a great, great illustrator. He really is.
Oh, yeah. And I love it, yes, when you've got, Rodney and Quincy, going along at their own paces along the bank there, along the side, alongside the water. It's absolutely wonderful. Now, apart from, yes, we've got Rodney, Quincy, and you've already said that we have got the two dogs. And they, again, are two important characters in this book, everybody. And, yeah, you've got Tripod and you've got Gator. And I know you've marginally touched upon this, but Tripod was one of, is a dog with 3 legs. And he was one of your, as you said, your husband's dogs. And then Gator, now for me, he's kind of a fun dog. And of course, dogs, these German short-haired pointer hunters, they're very important in your life. And that's why they're in the books. Why did you pick, was Tripod and Gator, those two dogs, when they were, in your life, were they great friends, the two of them? And that's why you put the two of them together?
Oh, yes, basically, that's a good point. They were friends, and they're opposite. They're very, very different. Tripod is the one that in the house, he would grab one of my books or my husband's hunting books. He would actually tear the binding off of the side of the book. And so I've got him in another book, and he calls it a shorthand way of learning about hunting, is what he calls it, because he claims, he's been reading, so to speak, from the binding of the book. And Gator was just not like that. I mean, Gator didn't do those kind of things, but Tripod did. Tripod was the one that might get him in a little bit of trouble, and Gator would have to help him out. So, they fit.
Yeah, and that's why you put Tripod in the rushing water and Gator coming to his rescue, didn't you?
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right.
Yeah, there you go. You see, everybody, the stories are based on Linda's dogs, what she saw, what she witnessed, and the fun that she's had with her dogs, because she's had dogs all her life, herself and her husband, Mike. They've had dogs all their lives. And these are the stories that she's just taken from her dogs, put them in a book, given them a character in children's stories. And she's telling the story of what they get up to, and so that kids aged 4 to 8 can look at the books and have a laugh, love the illustrations, and learn a little bit as well about writing and the wildlife of these places. For me, Linda, this is a fun book, but yes, at the same time, as you said already, you are teaching kids what these animals are about. Their so-called function, in the world. This is intentional for you, isn't it? This is important for you, that they're not only just fun books, they are also slightly educational.
Absolutely. I call my books, and it's kind of different, but I call them like the C books. In other words, SEE. You're seeing the books, and the S stands for it has to be a good story. The first E stands for it has to be entertaining. And the second E stands for it has to be educational. So when I do my books, I have to have a good story. I have to have it entertaining. Children don't like to be preached to. We all know that. But it needs to have some education for animals. And they need to be animals that these children may or may not know anything about. So that is very important to me. And I do a lot of I go to the schools and read to the schools, and I've actually worked with some teachers. Last year I worked at Eagle Nest, which is a school that's close to here, and I taught the children they wrote an actual small story, one page only, and they did an illustration with it. And it was two animals. We had to have two animals. They were one of the animals. They were the protagonist, and the other animal was the antagonist. So the protagonist, that was the child. And the child learned about the bear, or we would pick out like 6 animals. We did it because we live in New Mexico. So we would pick out certain animals. And so that teaches children a lot. But by reading the books, they learn. And hopefully they learn a little bit more about each of the animals. So that's what I try to do. I want to make it fun for the children. I want them to learn to write. I want them to learn to read. It's most important that children don't just do everything with a computer, that they can sit down and actually read the book with a handbook, or they can actually get the digital copy of the book too. So that's really important.
Did you enjoy writing this book, compiling it? I get the impression that you did, because it's coming across to me that you think that this was probably your best performance, so to speak, your best book. Am I right?
Yes, I really feel like it is. In many, many ways, it shows a lot of teamwork, diversity, community, fun. I mean, all of the things that I would hope that we would want in a society. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is. I feel like it is my best book, if you want to be honest truth.
Yeah, and and the 4 adorable characters, Rodney the roadrunner, Quincy the quail, Tripod, getting himself into trouble, and there's Gator, as usual, getting him out of trouble. And of course, you're telling the kids also about not so much the animals there, but you're talking about the all of a sudden surge of down the Auroras. The waters can all of a sudden just come lashing down, racing down, and just sweep life away, can't they?
Right, absolutely. And the cholla cactus is really what you were talking about, the spines on it.
Yeah.
That really hurts. I mean, those cactuses are not fun.
No, as Gator found out, yes, he had to have them removed, didn't he, by the great one?
The great one. I was going to say, we can't leave the hunter out. The great one to the rescue too. So
the great one, everyone, he's still the great one. When in the old series of the Hickory Dock series, the great one is there as well, and the dogs. And of course, he's the hunter. He's the master. Now, let's turn to Chatty, Linda. Now, this is a smaller book, and you set the scene, as you've already said, in South Dakota. Now, it's set on a grey November day, and it's a snow blizzard, and it's in South Dakota. Now, this is such a stark contrast to the Sonoran Desert of Arizona. Why did you choose a pheasant hen to be one of the main characters, and why a winter scene?
Well, once again, my husband has hunted quite a bit in the Dakotas, etc., and for pheasant. Nassau, that's one of the reasons I wanted it. This is a story that was taken from, and it's actually partially true, to be quite honest with you. Nassau did find a hen pheasant underneath the snow, because they can burrow down, and it's kind of like a shelter to the pheasant at times. And so that was one of the reasons. Nassau was one of the best black lab hunting dogs we've ever had. I mean, he was a great lab. I cannot begin to tell you how great he was. But anyway, and so he had gone after a hen pheasant. And in the story, it goes a little bit further. Chatty, the hen pheasant Chatty, she's not happy that Nassau brought her out. Hunting dogs are taught to have soft mouths. In other words, they are not to crunch down on a bird or anything like that. Nassau was perfect at that. He had a very soft mouth. He would bring it back to the hunter, and he waits until the hunter takes it out of his mouth. But he can't leave any teeth marks or anything. And Nassau was a perfect hunting dog for that. But in this story, there's a little twist, because
There is.
there's a definite twist. And Nassau's not very happy at the end.
He's not a happy bunny. He thought he was
No.
doing a good job, and it didn't turn out to be his day.
No. And that, once again, it teaches the children that, that with the hen pheasants, the hunters don't hunt them because it would hurt the population. And so Nassau learns the hard way as the hunter has Chatty fly off into the sky that's not right.
Huh?
But Nassau's up because he was trained. He went to hunting school, to learn how to do all this. And the hunter is...
Yeah. He's trying to do his best to please his master, only to be told by the great one, it kind of got the wrong bird, basically, so it wasn't his day, and it was a snow blizzard. So poor old Nasser, he wasn't having a good day. He thought he was going to please his master, but he didn't get the essence, the point, and the right bird. Poor old Nasser. But, Nasser, because he's the beautiful black Labrador retriever, and he's, one of the main characters in the book. He's a beautiful dog, isn't he?
Yes. Yeah, he was probably another one of those back in the old days. He was a wonderful dog. I can't begin to tell you. Yeah, he was great. And he hunted up to the end of his life, so to speak. So it was great. Yeah. He would do anything. I mean, he was perfect dog.
I'm interested, actually. When your husband goes out on the hunts, do you go with him?
I have not. I've only been like once but I'm not into the hunting part. But it is kind of fun to see the dogs, and the dogs, I have seen them in action, so to speak, and a long time ago, and it's really interesting. I think a relationship between the hunter and the animals is very, very important. And in my stories, because my husband is a really kind, sweet, wonderful hunter who is very much into protecting wildlife, so to speak. And hunters are just, there's really some great hunters. And so he's wonderful with the dogs. Really takes good care of them. So, and I'm trying to bring that across also.
Yes, that comes across, when he says, we don't hunt them, and we don't hunt them because they keep the population going.
Right, absolutely.
Again, Linda, like in all your books, you're telling a simple story, to the kids. Some stories carry a fun side to them, others not quite so. But there's an underlying message about the rural wildlife scene and what goes on in nature. Those messages are important for you to get across to the kids. But as you says, not telling them, but doing it in a fun way. That sums your books up, doesn't it?
Right, absolutely. It has to be fun. The kids have to like it, and that's the important thing. So, yes.
So, what's next for Linda Harkey as an author? Are we going to write more books? And are we going to see more in the series of Travel with the Pack? or are you going to move on to another topic?
I actually probably will do more with the animals. My next book, it's already on the drawing board. It's called Blake Jake, An Ordinary Day in the Life of a Wild Turkey. And it is about a turkey, a dog, and some cows. So that's what it's about. So yeah. So it'll be another interesting, and it takes place. It's not in a desert. It's not in South Dakota. This is more or less in New Mexico. So,
but is it going to be part of the Travels with the Pack series?
I don't know whether it will be or not. With the dog in there, it definitely could be. I haven't really decided yet, to be quite honest with you. And I've got 3 or 4 more that I've already have written. I'm just improving them, so to speak.
You love writing books for kids, don't you?
Yes, I really do, John. I really do. I think it's I enjoy it a lot. So
when you write your books, do you set a certain time throughout the day? Do you write in the morning or the afternoon, or do you just write as and when the mood takes you, or as and when the time becomes available?
I don't know how you do it, and I don't know how anybody else does it. I do it probably pretty early in the morning. And it also has to be if I'm in the mood, or if I don't have other things on my plate, so to speak. But I'm pretty good about getting up early in the morning, about 4 or 5, and that's when I don't have no interruptions at all, and that's when I do pretty good. And I also think of the ideas as I'm going down the highway or something. I have a friend who's a very good author, and he will actually have a little notebook with him. I don't know if you do that or not. And when he thinks of an idea, he'll write it down. I can't do that because I'm driving most of the time, because it takes me about 30 minutes to get down a mountain. So
she lives 10,000 feet up the mountainside, everybody. And you certainly don't walk down that track, not where she lives, because she might walk into a little cougar or a big cougar, or there might be a mother bear there with a few cubs, and that's not good. You need to be in your 4x4. I don't actually. I'm not one of these people who writes my books, at a set time. So it's not a morning or afternoon. It's as and when the time fits. And as you said, you've got to be in the mood for it. So the person who taught me to write, he used to say, you should spend so much time a day, you should do so many words a day. And eventually he just gave up with me and just said, I would just do it as and when you want to do it, because that's you. You're at the total different end of the scale as most authors. Most authors set aside, like, I've got to write 1,000 words a day, and I write it in the morning or in the evening. I don't. So I think you and I are similar there, but I'm not up at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I do better early in the morning. The other thing, and I don't know about you, but when I was with the children, when I work with children, I'll say, you can take one sentence. Like, I had a friend the other day that told me about, and this is another one of my book ideas, because I got the sentence from her. She said that there was a vulture and a raven and also a red-tailed hawk, and she saw them swarming down to get what was the roadkill on the ground. That one sentence has enabled me to actually come up with a story that's after Blake Jake, but I'm working on that story too. And so I'm going to have a story about those characters. Only I'm using a white raven, because there are white ravens. They're very rare, but I'm using a white raven, a red tail. What I'm trying to say, I guess, John, and maybe I'm going on too much, is that you can take one sentence that someone has said or one idea, and then you can develop that into an entire story, a fun story. And so that's what I do.
Absolutely. And you do it in a wonderful, delightful way. Linda, where can people get your books from? And and find out a little bit more about yourself?
Okay. The best thing is my website, and that is www.harkeybooks.com. And that'll open up. It's all of my books will be in there, and about the author will be in there, and about the characters in the story. So it's www.harkeybooks.com, and it will have at the end of each thing, like my Hickory Dog's Tales, it will show the awards that I've gotten on that one, and then it will show that you can buy it through Amazon or through Archway, the publisher, and you can click on that, and you can purchase the book. So.
Linda, thank you for your friendship over the last 9 to 10 months. Hopefully I'll get to stay on your ranch. I know you don't call it a ranch, but we won't tell everybody that. It's just 30 acres of land up there. Near Angel Fire in New Mexico, with your dogs, your cougars, your black bears, and the elks. I can't wait to come and visit you and see where you've put the scenes to these magical, beautifully gifted, created stories. So once again, thank you for your friendship over the last 9 to 10 months, and we will keep chatting and bantering about nothing and, general and load of rubbish at times, but that's the way that we work together, isn't it?
Absolutely. Can't wait to see you. Thank you.
So thanks for coming back onto the show to talk about your new series, the Linda Harkey, everybody. That leaves me, as I say, every week, just to say, I'm J.T. Crowley. Thanks for listening, watching, wherever you are in the world. So until next time, stay safe.